What we need to say that we talked to, this is really a big issue because it's a threat to one of the probably most successful reforms we have in Ukraine these days, the energy reform, because Naftogaz, this is a state oil gas company, had been more or less cleared out of corruption. We can state it got new management, and now we can listen what the new head of the board of Naftogaz has said in our exclusive interview. These are the things of these days, and the decisions should be taken very, very, very soon.
This is a violation of the plan, which was verified by the Cabinet of Ministers this year in July. The step that the Ministry of Economic Affairs has taken is totally against this plan and is a major violation of it. Regarding consequences, the biggest and the most dangerous outcome we can have is if the Stockholm Arbitration Court refuses to try the Gazprom case. According to the case, Naftogaz is demanding $12 billion from Gazprom, also introducing the possibility of a virtual reverse by which Gazprom would guarantee Ukraine future gas volume. Gazprom demands nothing from Naftogaz in the suit. They just want to maintain the status quo. In order to avoid such inaccurate and unbalanced decisions, we propose for the future to come back to the proposition that Naftogaz introduced a year ago, to delegate the directorship not to certain ministers, but to the Cabinet of Ministers in general, so as to take joint decisions. We will have a meeting with World Bank representatives before September 20th. If it's cancelled before September 20th, the loan would be at risk. We're seeing an unprecedented attack on Naftogaz. It's an attempt to come back to the time when Naftogaz practically was a donor for all private, criminal, and corrupt business. We hope that the government understands this and will make conclusions.
It's worth noting that the transport of gas in particular has long been a massive source of corruption. You look back at the country's history, in 2006, there were massive corruption cases under the Tymoshenko government relating to it, and also under the Yanukovych government as well. Foreign creditors have a large stake in this. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development gave a $300 million loan to Naftogaz, and the loan came with conditions. There are conditions that undertake some specific anti-corruption reforms, and Natalia, I think, the EBRD was saying, is pretty angry about this.
So the point that EBRD has to be consulted if there is a change of the charter. Right. So the issue is that there is a procedure and it had been violated. EBRD considered this reform to be the most successful, and we had a chance to talk to the regional head of the EBRD, who more or less demands that this decision is cancelled.
This particular move goes in the wrong direction. It goes against the movement, direction of movement, which we'd agreed with the government. So it is a big threat because it's a step in the wrong direction. And Naftogaz is the cornerstone of reform in this country. If Naftogaz fails, a lot of other things will fail. But because people take steps in all directions. Okay, I mean, there's a step in the wrong direction. We are going to fix it together.
And what the Prime Minister has told you, to us, he said there is no issue.
But to me, you'd have to ask him, but we agreed that there was an issue. Maybe he was not fully aware of it, but we agreed that there was an issue, and that's why we're going to sit down with his team and with him to propose a solution and to fix it.
But who can benefit from this move with taking out under control of the Ministry of Economy this particular company? Why it's, besides it's go the wrong direction, for the people who don't follow, they don't understand why it's a big deal.
It's really important that companies are managed in the right way. Because if you don't have good governance in companies, a lot of things can happen. And in this country, for example, you can give contracts to friends just because you're friends without organizing proper competition. And therefore, you're going to overpay for these contracts. And that is money that's coming out of the people's pockets. So That's one danger. Another danger is that decisions are made which do not correspond to the interests of a company and to the interests of the state of Ukraine. So all these decisions need to be made in a transparent manner, in a verifiable manner, and within the framework of a control environment which makes sure that everything is correct and everything is done in a correct manner. Now, I don't know, again, I haven't seen the detail of the changes in Naftogaz and in Ukrotransgaz charter. We are still looking. I don't know what decisions the management of the company has made in the time since the new charter has been implemented. So I cannot comment on that. But clearly, we need to revert to a situation where there's proper internal controls and where we go back into the corporate governance improvement plan that we had agreed with the management of Naftogaz and with the government of Ukraine.
Now, speaking more general, we were waiting for this 1 billion tranche from International Monetary Fund, and more or less before that, it was clear that if there is no signal from IMF, there are no investors coming. How do you feel the things are that? What are the things the investors are currently following in Ukraine? What would be for them the real sign beside this 1 billion IMF deal?
Well, I think there's a number of things here. One, it's a very good sign that the tranche has been approved. It means that the government has done a lot of things, a lot of important decisions have been made, and for investors it's a great signal of trust and confidence. The second thing that I would like to say is there's a number of things that are actually on investors' minds, which Ukraine has not been doing very, very well in the past, and which need to be changed. And I would say very practically, right now in Ukraine there are limitations to paying back dividends to your home, to your parent company, which means that if you come in and invest, you have no guarantee that you can take your money back once you've made profit. And people don't invest for charity, they invest for profit. So they have to be able to take the money back. Now, I expect that following the payment of the IMF tranche, the Ukrainian government will actually be able to make a decision to lift this dividend ban for good, which will be a great signal for the investors. The other thing is there still are ongoing issues. They are being resolved, but there still are ongoing issues with VAT payments. And again, that's very important for investors that come here, want to build production capacity in order to export to other markets. If they cannot know that there's going to be a reliable system for them to get their VAT back, then they're going to think twice before investing because it's a big problem for them. So these are very concrete steps that the Ukrainian government now can make in order to reassure investors that they're welcome. And then there's a more longer-term environment around the rule of law, the corruption, and so on, which still requires a lot of work. We've seen some improvement, but frankly, there's a lot of work ahead of us, and that is consistently the number one issue that all investors cite as the main obstacle to investing in Ukraine.
So that was the EBRD head to Eastern Europe, for Eastern Europe and the Caucasus, Francis Malige. He also met with Prime Minister Volodymyr Hrysman about the issue. We interviewed him at the YES conference, and he essentially denied there was a problem, but you can see him denying that there was a problem and the following soundbite.
As the Prime Minister of the country, I can assure you that there are no problems with Naftogaz reform, and there will be no problems. I don't understand why it generated so much buzz, because Naftogaz as well as Transgaz are under the management sphere of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Moreover, Naftogaz is a shareholder of Ukrotransgaz. That's why I can't say why it touched off such a big reaction. But I can say that I will learn all the risks, and if there is even a 1% risk of harm, I will liquidate it.